Okay, welcome everybody. So quick question before we get into tonight's content. How many of you, so last week we talked about working your numbers and taking a look at your numbers and things like that. How many of you type in the chat box actually did that? How many of you actually sat down and took a look at your conversion rates? How many people you've spoken with? How many of you guys actually took the time to do that earlier in the week? Okay. Welcome to your first call. Welcome to your first call. Very cool. So you can catch up on the recording from last week so you have some context of what I'm referring to. We won't spend any more time on that. I'm just curious to see how many of you had a chance to look at your numbers. Okay. And what did you find out by doing that? What did you find out by looking at some of your numbers for those of you guys that did that? And again, for those of you that weren't on the call last week, no worries. You could catch up on it on the recording. But type in the chat box. Let me know, what did you discover about what you found? What did you find? What did you notice? Let's give it a second while you type. I found out I need to start recording who I'm talking to. I've been too blasé about it. Okay, Jacqueline says I know where I stand. Room for improvement, says Sonder. Okay, great, great. Need to up your asks, okay? Conversion's taking longer, okay? Your process is a little bit slower than you'd like, okay? Good, good observation. What else? Anything else? The recordings are all on, always uploaded to the group. They're always uploaded to the group, and they also live on our YouTube channel as well, which you can find once you find them in the group. So I upload them every Monday. Okay, so. All right, cool. So I was having a conversation with a partner of ours yesterday, somebody on the team here in the States, and they got frustrated. They were getting frustrated, and they were getting frustrated because of the week that they were having, right? It just seemed like no one was getting started. They were frustrated about their cycles or lack thereof. They were frustrated by the people that said they were going to get on a call or on a webinar and didn't. How many of you have had days like that or weeks like that where, just type in the chat box, where it just feels like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm working really hard and no one's showing up and my cycles are low and this, that, and the other, right? And she said, I feel exhausted from it. And, you know, and then she said, you know, it's really, really hard. And what I shared with her that I want to share with all of you is this, because what she was asking was, she said, what's the shortcut? I said, what's the shortcut? And I said, there is no shortcut. And what I also said to her was this, and this is what I want you guys to get. There's only the long game. There's only the long game. And what I mean by that is, statistically speaking, and God or universe or spirit or whatever it is you believe in, no matter what you believe in, at the end of the day, statistically speaking, most of us are going to live a fairly long life. You know, hopefully, most of us are going to live into our 80s and 90s. So no matter what, life is a long game. Type in the chat box. How many of you would agree that life is a long game, right? Type in the chat box. How many agree? Life is a long game. Nope, there's no arguing with it, right? God willing, as long as we stay healthy, hopefully, right? Life's a long game. It just is. So then it begs the question, we have to ask ourselves, okay, if life is a long game, then how do I want to feel along the way? How do I want to feel as I play the long game? And one of the things that we do, that especially in this business, and I just want to invite you guys to stop doing it, is stop obsessing over what happens on a week-to-week basis. This is a big shift in terms of going from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur's mindset. An employee thinks about a week at a time. And why do employees think about a week at a time? Because Sunday night comes around, oh, got to go to work on Monday. And then all of a sudden it's Friday, and it's like, all right, it's Friday, and it's the weekend. And employees, how many of you guys can relate? Type in the chat box. How many of you guys can relate to that? As an employee, we're just very accustomed to living 1 week at a time, and we evaluate everything based on that single week, right? I had a good week. Oh, I had an exhausting week. I had a great week. Oh, I had a terrible week. My boss was amazing this week. My boss was a jerk this week, right? My kids were fantastic all week. My kids were a nightmare this week. And everything we do, because the way we've been programmed into society in terms of how things operate, everything we do is based on this week-to-week measuring stick. But when you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner, we don't think like that. We think over the course of quarters, the year, and then years, right? We think big picture. We think everything in terms of the long term. So when you're willing to take that on, what you recognize is that having quote unquote one bad week in this business or as a business owner is not just irrelevant, it's irrational to allow it to frustrate you. Because let me ask you a question. How many of you would love to make an extra $5,000 a month in isogenics? Okay, an extra $5,000 a month in isogenics. Euros or pounds, same, doesn't matter. Okay, so we're looking at roughly a total of 100 cycles over the course of a month would be $5,000 in a month, right? That's 100 cycles. Or 25 cycles a week, right, is 100 cycles. Call it roughly $5,000 in US dollars. However the currency works out is how it works out. Okay, $5,000 a month. Now, let me ask you a question. If you made no money, for the first 3 weeks of a month, but in the 4th week you cycled 100 times and you made the $5,000, would it matter? If you cycled 10 times in the first week, 60 times in the second week, okay, so now we're at 70, 10 times in the 3rd week, and then another 20 times in the 4th week to combine for 100, would it matter? Wouldn't matter. Yet, what do? We say, oh, people didn't show up for the calls today. But if they show up for the calls on Friday, and your goal is to connect with 5 people in a week, for example, and all 5 happen on Friday, Monday through Thursday you have 0, does it matter? Doesn't matter. And so that's the difference between going from an employee mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset. Because at the end of the day, what matters is the average and how it averages out. And what you have to understand is you might, for example, maybe you have a little bit of saved volume on one of your legs, right? Maybe you happen to be in a position where you have a little bit of saved volume. And you look at that saved volume and go, oh, my business didn't grow this week. No, of course your business grew this week. What difference does it make if you cash in that saved volume this week or next? Does it make any difference? Makes no difference. See, what's unique about being an entrepreneur is you can create a new rule. See, when you're an employee, you have to abide by what your boss wants you to do. That's one of the reasons I can't be employed. Because what I never understood was if a boss said to me, hey, I need this project done by this day and time, and I was like, cool. And if he checked in with me, say a quarter of the way through, or she checked in with me a quarter of the way through, and I had done no work, I'd get in trouble. But if I said to them, look, you're gonna have what you want delivered on your desk by the deadline, what difference does it make? Whether I'm working on it today or if I work on it in 3 days, what difference does it make? That's why I can't work for people. Does that make sense? Business is the same. You got to think of that. You got to think of this the same way for yourself. Now, if you start to see a pattern, where week after week, people aren't showing up on calls, week after week, your cycles aren't growing, week after week, the money's not coming in, or month after month, then we've got to look at some things. Then it's, okay, what skills do I have to go to work on? What belief do I have to go to work on? Am I using the products? Am I in alignment? Am I working on my mindset? Of course, we have to look at patterns. But one of the greatest ways to stifle your growth is if you get overly consumed week to week. If you get overly consumed day to day. If you get overly consumed minute by minute and you allow those things to rock you in any way, shape, or form, I know this is going to sound sad when I say this, you should go back and you should plan on being an employee for the rest of your life. And I don't say that to be mean, and I don't say that to be rude. I say that with all the love in the world. Because one of the things that no one tells you, that I'm always here to tell you, I'm always here to, how many of you guys appreciate that about me? That I'm just always gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be transparent about what it takes. Because there's too much smoke and mirrors. You gotta have thick skin. And you have to have a strong mindset. You have to have a strong mindset. You have to have thick skin. There's so much love for sport in Europe, right? Football is such a beautiful game that so many love in Europe. And we're not going to get into the arguments about who's best or anything like that right now. We're not going to do that. I don't want to start a civil war here or international war on the call. But how many of you have watched games, watched fixtures where your team is down 2-0, right? Your team is down 2-0 and fans start to leave or whatever it is. And all of a sudden, 10 minutes left, goal, it's 2-1, right? 4 minutes left, goal, it's 2-2. Extra time, goal, and your team wins 3-2. When you're dancing up and down and celebrating that your team won, do you care that they won 3-2 at the death? Does it make any difference whatsoever? It makes no difference whatsoever. And what separates the greatest athletes in the world and the greatest business owners in the world is we don't stop playing until the whistle stops. We don't stop playing until the final whistle blows. And sometimes what I see happen in this business and in people who are on a new journey and a new path to success is you get a goal that's scored against you. More often than not, in our industry, it's an own goal, right? More often than not, we cause it. It's an own goal. For those of you that are football fans, you know what I'm saying. It's an own goal. It's a mistake. It's a lapse in judgment. I wasn't thinking. I was poorly positioned. I didn't listen to my coach, whatever it may be. And then we get down. And rather than playing through the whistle, and rather than playing two halves evenly, and rather than giving all of our best effort until the game is over, what do? We put our heads down. There's no way we can win this game. The fans should boo us. They're right to boo us. They should throw the beer on the field. I suck. I'm not good at this. I should quit. And why? Because they faced a little bit of resistance. So when you're having a challenging week or a challenging day, you can't allow it to take you out of the game. Now, it doesn't mean you're not allowed to be frustrated. And it doesn't mean you're not allowed to feel, bummed out or whatever it is. You're allowed to feel however you want to feel. But the thing that separates people who quote unquote make it in entrepreneurship and those who don't is that the people who make it don't stay stuck in that moment. They don't stay stuck. They keep playing. We keep finding a way. And so for those of you that have had a challenging week, exactly, resiliency. For those of you that have a challenging week in any aspect of your life, you can apply this to anything in your life, right? How many of you would agree? You can apply this to anything in your life. Kids are being a nightmare, whatever. Over the long run, are the kids great? Fantastic, right? Spouse you aren't connecting for whatever reason. Partner, you're just having a bad week. In the long run, you have a wonderful, loving, harmonious relationship. Fantastic. That's what matters. But your attitude's going to determine your altitude, as the saying goes. But if you're constantly focused on, I suppose, refresh. If that's all you're doing over and over and over again, guess what? Frustration, resentment, doubt. And so what are some things you can do rather than just being so focused on what's not working? Type in the chat box. What are some things you can do? What are some things you can do when things don't feel like they're working? In any area of your life, what can you do? Focus on what is working. Awesome. What else? What does work? For sure. What else can you do? You can enjoy yourself. I love that. What else? You can change your strategy. Take a new action. Pour love into your customers, your team. Give something else a go. Be in action. Chop wood, carry water, for sure. Find gratitude. Absolutely. You know what else you can do? Go do something else. Take yourself away from the business for a second. Halftime. Blow the whistle. Halftime. Go in the locker room. Take a shower. Talk to your coach. Ask them, hey, what can I do? How can I improve? How can I get better? Then get back on the field. But if you constantly pay attention to every kick of the ball, to every pass, to every missed opportunity, and you stay stuck on how you caused an own goal, you're always going to lose. There's this thin line that separates people that are successful in any arena of life. The thinnest line is how we handle adversity and how we handle resistance. It's almost impossible to see that thin line. And how many of you are aware of that? How many of you guys know that? How many of you guys know there's just this slight, subtle little difference? And you watch it all the time, the people who bounce back versus the people that just stay under. And so I really want you to stop paying attention. It doesn't mean don't track. I'm not saying don't track, but I am saying don't attach and don't give too much meaning. Because again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you want to cycle 30 times in a month. It doesn't matter if all 30 come in the last week. It doesn't matter. What matters is the long game, and it's all a long game. So I just want you guys to ask yourself the question as you continue to build this business, whether you're brand new or you've been in it for a little while, ask yourself the question, okay, I know I'm in the long game. Here's where I see myself going. Here's who I'm committed to becoming. Here are the skills I'm committed to learning. Here's the person I intend to improve as. In the long run, that's who I see myself as. So even when it's challenging, even when it's difficult, how do I want to treat myself? How do I want to talk to myself? How do I want to show up for myself? What's my attitude? What's my attitude? Am I willing to stay in the game? Am I willing to find a way to stay in the game? Even if I got to step off the field for a minute, for a quick break. And that doesn't mean go away from your business. Doesn't mean like stop plugging in or anything like that. But just to evaluate. That's why I wanted you guys to look at your numbers last week. So you could just evaluate, take an honest look at how am I playing the game? Because there's always room for improvement. How can I get better? What skills do I need to improve? When was the last time I did a 2-day cleanse? Am I using the groups effectively? Am I using them the right way? Am I following the training site? Am I trying to do things on my own? Am I making it more difficult for myself? Do I need to, like a footballer, do I need to increase my speed? Do I need to increase my strength? Do I need to increase my intelligence of my positioning on the field? Do I hate my coach, but I know that he's right or she's right, and I should probably listen, even though I'm resisting their coaching because they've won trophies before? These are all the questions of self-awareness that a strong, smart, savvy, brand new or seasoned entrepreneur will constantly ask themselves. How can I get better? What I've been doing clearly isn't necessarily working. This doesn't feel good for me. What might feel better for me? Who can I reach out to? Who can I plug into? What training can I watch? How can I improve enough so that I can just stay in the game? So again, life is a long game. No matter what, how do you want to play the game? Type in the chat box. You guys let me know. How do you want to play the game? Type in the chat box. How do you want to play the game? You're on the field. You've already stepped on the field. None of you are spectators anymore. You're on the pitch. How do you want to play the game? Phil wants to play to win. Donna wants to play to win. What else? How else do you want to play? Full out, all in. Okay, what else? Fall and rise again, stronger no matter what. What else? How else do you want to play the game? Focused. Great. What else? With fun. Good. Consistent, progressively, full out. Keep going. Win. Staying in no matter what. Only one person said fun. One person said fun. Saskia said fun. The most fun games are the games when I played competitively. The best games, by far the most fun games, is when we were losing and we thought it was over and we'd find a way to come back and win. By far. The most boring games, the dullest games, we'd win 4, 5, 6-0 because it was easy competition. That's not fun. There's no fun in that. There's no fun in that. So how do you want to feel as you play the game? And if you're willing to have fun, then you can laugh at yourself a little bit. That you can be okay with the mistakes that you make. That you can be okay with the own goals. Because you take it in stride and you understand that it's just part of the game. And so no matter how you're committed to playing the game, what I want you to focus on every day is just playing your game. Playing your game in a way that feels good, in a way that you can commit to being consistent, and in a way that you identify with. Not trying to play it like anybody else, not trying to play it like Michael or Michelle or Dominique or anyone else that you might be comparing yourself, or Esther or whomever, or Saskia or Sandra, it doesn't matter. Just play your game. Just play your game. How many of you guys can commit to doing that? Type in the chat box, just to playing your game. Every single day. Just play your game. Just play your game. And that language, just play your game. Here's who taught me that. My mom taught me that. And the day my mom taught me that was I was also a competitive tennis player. Maybe I've shared this story before in the past, but I'll share it for those of you that are new. So I was a competitive tennis player. I traveled all over to play tournaments. And one time, I wasn't exactly a tall kid. I'm still not, right? One time I go on the court and I would look across my opponent. He's a little guy. And he's what in tennis he's called a pusher. He just like would dink the ball. Dink, dink, dink. And in my mind, I'm going to kill this guy, right? I'm going to kill this guy. He would dink the ball and I'd wind up and swing as hard as I could. Out, long, wide. And I got so frustrated and so mad. I was so angry. I'd lost so much control of my mind. I took my racket and I threw it over the fence. And my stepfather came on the court and he ripped me off the court. And he said, you're disqualified. I'm disqualifying you from the tournament. You're out of here. Because he wanted to teach me to be a good sport, obviously. But my mom said to me, she said, Zach, she said, do you know why that happened? And I said, no. And she said, because you allowed your opponent to dictate how you played the game. Just play your game. No matter who your opponent is, play to your strengths. Focus on improving during the week on where you can get better. But just play your game, because that wasn't my game. Trying to overpower him wasn't my game. I happened to meet the same kid in another tournament like 3 weeks later in the semis. 6-0, 6-0. No problem. Why? I kept it easy. Just played my game. Didn't worry about how they were playing. Didn't worry about what was going on in the other courts. Same thing when I had my football career. Just play your game every single day. Whatever you want it to look like, whatever feels good for you, whatever your flow is, whatever your energy is, totally fine. Stop trying to do it like everybody else. Doesn't mean don't use the system and the templates, of course. But play within your zone of genius. Play your game. And stop paying so much attention to a week-to-week mentality. Get out of that employee mindset. Start to think like an entrepreneur. Start to think like an athlete. Even if you've never been one before, it's okay. You can develop that mindset. You can learn that behavior. So that's it, everybody. I'm going to wrap this thing up. I'm going to post in both groups. What did you learn? I hope you found value in this evening's call. Thank you for plugging in, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a great evening. Bye.